about taking a solo trip to the Grand Canyon. Now, I did this myself a while back, and it was one of the best trips I ever took. In fact, I can't wait to do it again. And I'm not talking about your typical touristy trip to the Grand Canyon. I'm talking about a soul-healing, nostalgic one that is designed specifically for the solo traveler. I'll give you a simple, easy 3-day itinerary that hits the highlights and lets you soak in the healing energy of the Grand Canyon, with an added bonus visit to Flagstaff along the way. I'll also let you know the budget you need to make it happen. What can I say about the Grand Canyon? It is spectacular. Mere words fall short describing it. Amazing, astonishing, breathtaking, dazzling, magnificent, stunning. None of them do it justice. This canyon is basically a 6,000 foot, 277 mile long mountain range flipped over. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it really lives up to its status. You should go, just go. When I get the urge to explore a new place, I look for the shortcuts that will maximize my enjoyment and minimize my stress. Having done solo travel for many, many years, I have learned that there are lots of little things that will eat up precious vacation time. So I'm looking for ways to hack the system to give me as much time as I can possibly get in the place that I'm visiting. And I'm going to share those with you. Quickly, if you find this valuable, please like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. There are lots of ways to spend time at the Grand Canyon. There's hiking, camping, spending the night at Phantom Ranch, which is at the bottom of the canyon, or riding a mule down. For a solo traveler, I recommend visiting the South Rim and Grand Canyon Village. I didn't want to drive to the canyon like everyone else does. I heard it can be super hectic, so I opted instead to take a trip back in time on the Grand Canyon Railway, which will take you straight to the canyon, and they've been doing it since 1901. Don't worry, I'll link everything for you in the description below and give you a sample schedule for your trip at the end of this video. But first, there are a few things to know before you go. When to visit. Let's start with the time of year for your visit. Summer is peak season, so be prepared for hordes of tourists and very limited lodging availability. Ideal times are March through May and September through November. The Grand Canyon gets almost 5 million visitors each year, so just be prepared and pack your patience. Remember, solo travel is about exploring new places, experiencing freedom, being flexible, and gaining new perspectives. For my solo trip to the South Rim, I started in Phoenix. The Grand Canyon is approximately 3.5 hours from Phoenix, so you will need to rent a car for this trip. And for my first night, I stayed at the Hyatt Gainey Ranch in Scottsdale. This is a gorgeous area of the American West because it's surrounded by mountain ranges, and the sunsets just light up the sky with these incredible shades of pink and purple. Resorts are abundant here with pools and spas. I've linked my favorite places to stay in the description. After waking up the next day at my resort, I drove 2.5 hours north to Flagstaff to spend the day and the night. Flagstaff is a jewel of a town, surrounded by mountains and pine forests. If you like to hike, there are plenty of hiking trails. And if shopping is more your thing, then you can check out the downtown area. It has restaurants and galleries, boutiques and breweries. It's easy to find parking and it's really walkable. It's an eclectic little town, think Boulder, Colorado vibe. So while in Flagstaff, I spent the night at the Little America Hotel before driving the next morning to catch the train to the Grand Canyon. Now, when I travel alone, where I stay really shapes the experience of the trip. So I spend a good bit of time researching the options before I pick one, because my surroundings are going to deeply impact my mood and the overall experience. So if you want to save yourself the time and effort of this kind of research, I highly recommend the Little America Hotel. At the end of this video, I'll give you a breakdown of all my expenses for this trip. Now, do not let the name or the exterior look of the Little America Hotel fool you. I absolutely love this place. It's got an old school exterior, think 1960s Holiday Inn, but it's meticulously maintained. The rooms are beautiful with floor-to-ceiling views of the stunning ponderosa pine forest that surrounds the hotel. It's really, really peaceful. You can actually take a leisurely hike among those pines right on the hotel grounds if you want. I had dinner at the hotel. It has a nice restaurant and bar area, but there are lots of other choices in the town of Flagstaff if you'd rather venture out. The next morning, I drove 30 minutes to catch the train into the Grand Canyon. The great thing about going by train, other than it's unique and it's fun, is that you avoid the hassle of finding parking at the national park and paying the entrance fees. Rail cars are all vintage, they've been restored. So outside your window, the view is going to change from like high desert to prairies and then really lush pine forest. Now prices for the train are going to vary depending on the class of ticket that you decide to buy. For a single ticket, they range anywhere from $69.98 to $239.98. And the higher price tickets are going to include bar service and snacks. I chose the first class ticket, which was priced at $169.98. The train leaves at 9:30 in the morning and it's going to return at 5:45 p.m. and you'll have about 3 hours at the canyon. Now the Grand Canyon Railway also has a hotel that you could choose to stay at instead of staying in Flagstaff. But since I select where I stay based on the vibe and experience I want, I chose not to do this myself because of its location. There's not much else to explore in the area around the railway, and Flagstaff was just a much funner alternative and only 30 minutes away. So if you do want to stay at the hotel at the train station, that's going to cost you around $454 for a one-night stay and one first-class train ticket. When you arrive at the canyon by train, you're going to be dropped off in the historic village, which is at the South Rim. So I opted to also add on a bus tour while I was at the Grand Canyon so that I could see the most famous, recognizable sites that are at the South Rim. This was a 1.5 hour bus tour with stops to get out, walk around, take pictures. I took the motor coach rim tour, which is called the Freedom Tour. You can book this through the Grand Canyon Railway when you book your ticket, and it was only $46. So I found it to be well worth it, and I still had 1.5 hours to explore at the canyon on my own and take in those amazing views. If you're exploring on your own at the Grand Canyon Village, I really loved walking through the historic El Tovar Hotel. It is directly on the rim of the canyon and it opened in 1905. It was designed to look like a cross between a Swiss chalet and a Norwegian villa. And let me tell you, they nailed it. They did this because they wanted to appeal to the taste of the elite Americans back then who just really loved European culture. Out of its 78 rooms, no two of them are alike. And one night stay here is going to cost you about $579 if you can find a vacancy. I also was able to grab some food from a vendor, and I went to the visitor center and the Tusayan Pueblo and Museum. Wandering around Grand Canyon Village, you're going to be surrounded by views of the canyon. It's really spectacular. A quick recap, and again, I'll link all of this in the description below for you. This is a 3-day solo trip beginning in Phoenix, then spending a day and a night in Flagstaff, and a day at the Grand Canyon, and one final night back in Phoenix. For your budget, you're going to need a budget for your flight to Phoenix. Obviously, that's going to vary depending on where you're visiting from. So I'm just going to use like $350 as a placeholder for that. Car rental is going to cost you about $200 for a 4-day rental. If you stay at the Hyatt Regency Scottsdale Resort and Spa, like I did, it's $350 a night. Or you can stay at the Aiden by Best Western Scottsdale, and it's $125 a night. I have stayed there before. The rooms are really great. It's got a nice bar and a restaurant and a much cheaper alternative. You're going to spend one night in Flagstaff, and I recommend the Little America Hotel, which is $279. You can find less expensive alternatives, but this is so worth it. And then your train ticket and tour at the Grand Canyon. A first class ticket, $170. You could select a cheaper class, which starts at $70. And then your tour at the canyon, I did the Freedom Tour, was $46. Your final night, can be at the location of your choice, depending on when your flight home is the next day. You could do the Grand Canyon Railway Hotel, you could stay in Flagstaff again, or drive back to Phoenix and do a hotel there. So I would just budget about $200 there for that final night. Meals and your incidentals, you're going to have 4 dinners, 3 lunches, 3 breakfasts, $200. That brings your total to about $1,800 if you do the trip the way I did. But remember, you could choose to stay at a different hotel, bring that price down, choose a different class of ticket on your train ride and bring that cost down. And also you could forego the tour at the canyon and just walk around and explore on your own. I would recommend you bring a journal or have a journal app on your phone so that as you're walking around the canyon, if you get any aha moments, You can write them down. Obviously comfortable walking shoes and a jacket. So that's it, a fantastic low stress way to experience the Grand Canyon solo. I'd love to hear in the comments if you plan to visit this world wonder.